Hi there, and welcome from ASCO 2017. I'm Maria Whitman. I'm the head of Oncology and Specialty Therapeutics at ZS Associates, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Dr. Yousuf Zafar, who is the Associate Professor of Medicine and Public Policy at Duke University. Dr. Zafar, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
So Doctor, let's talk about some of the stakeholders that are engaged in evaluating, using, and generating real-world evidence. Specifically for the regulatory bodies who are considering approval of new therapeutics options, what role should real-world evidence be playing in that approval?
So I believe that it's important for regulatory bodies to absolutely consider real-world evidence, particularly real-world evidence that is generated by patients. Again, so thinking about patient-reported outcomes. Again, as the evidence grows towards the benefit of patient-reported outcomes, I think it's going to be hard for regulatory bodies to avoid it altogether. Yet, I believe the responsibility falls on us as investigators, as academicians, to design measures that are of the highest quality so that we're capturing the items that are most important.
So what about the payers? Payers are obviously one of the few organizations that, in addition to the providers, have a bank of information in front of them. How should they be using real-world evidence today, and do you see that happening?
I love talking to payers about that because they do have a great deal of very high quality evidence about the patients that I treat who are their clients.
Yeah.
And I understand that the payers also have a responsibility to protect that data to the greatest extent possible. But I think there's some great opportunities for collaboration there, where payers have this very high quality real world evidence that shows not only the type of treatments that patients get, but how they respond to that treatment.
Yes.
And how much that treatment costs.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of opportunities there, and there are ongoing discussions along those lines.
Thinking about the patients, because they are the most important stakeholder that we talk about, what essentially is the most important part about real-world evidence and getting to that promise of real-world evidence for them?
I think it's their voice. Where I think we have so much more work to do in real-world evidence is bringing the patient to the table as we develop.
Yep.
So involving the patient and understanding what's important to them. You know, you think about metrics like progression-free survival.
Yes.
You know, I would challenge you to, in 30 seconds or less, describe to a patient what progression-free survival is and why it should be important to them. And I'll tell you, it's hard to do because I doubt it's very important to most of the patients who get treated based on drugs that are approved on that metric.
Yes.
So we absolutely need to pull patients into the process early so we understand what's important to them, and we can build those measures into our development and approval processes.
Another important part of real-world evidence is continuing a conversation we've been having for many years around transparency, and some of these examples of making real-world evidence and data out there for providers to see is providing transparency into what treatment looks like. What is the manufacturer's role in generating real-world evidence?
I do believe manufacturers have a very special role in this process, and it's because, let's face it, they're primarily responsible for generating the data that gets the drug approved.
Yes.
And I do believe it's in their best interest because we all realize that a lot of times clinical trials don't necessarily represent the patients that I might be seeing in clinic tomorrow. And I believe it's in the manufacturer's best interest to get a better sense of what's happening outside of those trials. So that their drug is used more effectively. Now, I think the real question there comes down to timing, right? So does that happen before the randomized trial, during, or after, sort of in a phase 4 approach? I think there are a lot of different ways that manufacturers could get involved in real-world evidence generation.
That would require a much different partnership and collaboration with their research centers of excellence as well as they're doing that than exists today, and probably some different infrastructure.
Well, that's a great point. It absolutely would. And it would require us as researchers to think outside the box in terms of how that's done.
How you do
but again, we all have a role to play.
Yeah.
One word: partnership. I think we have to understand that we as academicians have to understand the needs of manufacturers and payers, all part of the same set of challenges that we need to help the creation of tools and metrics and measures to collect real-world evidence. At the same time, manufacturers need to understand the power of it in that there will come a time where We will not solely look to the randomized clinical trial, and we'll have to look beyond it as drugs become more specific in their targets, as we understand that colon cancer is not colon cancer, right? And that's where the partnership becomes so important.
How far away are we from the promise of real-world evidence?
I don't think we're that far.
We're not that far.
I think the technology is there today to collect real-world evidence in terms of high-quality data.
Yes.
Electronic health records are spreading across the country that are hopefully unified in the way they collect the data and then are able to share it and disseminate it. So I think we're almost there.
5 years from now, if you and I are sitting here again talking about real-world evidence, what will have been accomplished?
So in 5 years from now, and you can hold me to it.
Okay, I will.
we won't be talking about why, but we'll be talking about how. So I think we'll have moved beyond the question of why is real-world evidence important to what are the different resources that are available and around us, and which ones should we be going to integrate into our practices.